Well, the project in the shop today is this 1987 Sea Nymph. This is a SS175 model with a Johnson 90 on the back. And what we're going to be doing today is an impeller, a water impeller, water pump kit on this outboard. This outboard, this one in particular, I can't find any serial number on it anywhere. So I've had good luck ordering parts for it so far, just ordering 90 horse Johnson parts, and so far I've been able to do the I did head gaskets, I rebuilt the carburetors, and I did this impeller 3 years ago. I remember having good luck with those parts, didn't have really any issues out of it. So if you've got an outboard that you can't find serial numbers on and it's a Johnson 90, there's a good chance that just order parts for a Johnson 90 and they'll probably work for you. So the kit that I bought this time around, last time I did it, I remember, actually I went back in my Amazon order history and I found an impeller and O-ring that I had ordered 3 years ago, and it was about $30 some to do it then with just the impeller and O-ring. This time around I got the whole kit for like $33. So the kit comes of course with the impeller, bolts. I think they sent me an extra pack of bolts, so I don't think I need these. The outer housing, of course the inner housing, adapter for the top. You got the plate and the gasket there, and let's see, there's 3 small O-rings in there. There's 1 large O-ring. You got the shift shaft sort of bushing. There's that adapter for the top of the water pump, and the keys in there, a couple of bolts. So the whole kit here. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with instructions, but between this video and another video that I'm going to recommend to you is from Brandon's Garage. He did a water pump on a Johnson 90, and he made a really extensive video. So watch this video, then go check out his video, and you guys shouldn't need instructions then. So that's kind of why I'm putting this together too. I'm going to go ahead and get my transom saver off there, get this thing stood up vertically, get the hood popped off of it. I'm going to try to, there is the linkage for the shifter comes all the way up underneath the carburetors. I'm going to try to release that linkage, unpin it without removing anything else on the engine. Last time I did this project, I know I had the carburetors off of it, and I think I even had the heads off of it last time I did this project. So I'm going to try it a little bit different this time. I'm going to show you what that looks like when I get in there. Okay, so we're coming around to this side of the engine. I got my long skinny screwdriver to use as a pointer. I got a headlamp on to show you guys what I'm talking about with this linkage here. Okay, so this hairpin, can you see that hairpin there that I'm touching? Okay, so this hairpin works a linkage that you pull that hairpin out, you push in on this housing here, and that releases back in here. Can you see that shaft that I'm poking? There's it's about 3/8 inch diameter. That's the shift shaft that comes with the lower unit. It comes up, makes a little bit of a bend, comes around, and it's captured by, this is a weird little apparatus here. So the other end of this rod sort of pivots. It's just weird how you get in there to do that. So we're going to pull that pin, try not to lose it. These long-handled hemostats, if you guys don't have a pair of them, next time you're at the flea market or tractor show or whatever, pick them up. These are really handy. So then we're going to push in on this linkage. Okay, you see that whole thing moving? Okay, so it didn't take me much more fiddling. Maybe I wasn't over here a minute by myself. Okay, so I had to push in a little further on this linkage. So you can see where, now you don't see any of the shaft behind it, essentially. It's got a little bit of a spring tension on it. But back in here, I hope you guys can see this. See how that rod is loose now? See that rod I'm working my screwdriver against? White rod. That rod that's wiggling back there, that rod runs all the way down. That's the shifter shaft. So we were able to get that unhooked pretty easily, actually, without taking the carburetors off. So I hope I'll be able to hook it back up just as easily. Let's go ahead and raise this thing up. I think I got all my little parts out. The only part I pulled out of there was the hairpin. I don't see anything else that fell off or anything. So we'll go ahead and raise this up. Unfortunately, I don't have a switch for the trim back there. Just up here at the captain's seat. All right. Okay, so we're going to pull this bolt out, which should expose another bolt that's hidden back in there. Then I think we got to pull that bolt too. I think that runs all the way up. And then there are two on this side, two on this side, and that should do it. Okay, so here's the first look at it. First thing I notice is this exhaust gasket here looks like it was pushed down. So when I put that in 3 years ago, it must have kind of pushed it down funny. As far as performance goes, I didn't notice anything. It sure didn't sound any different. But we'll look at, if we look up in here, you can kind of see a little bit of a black mark diagonal right there that makes me think that that gasket might have been on there a little bit crooked. So that's what you're looking at when you look up in there. That's the exhaust side. That copper tube, that's the water line. So the impeller pushes water up that tube. That hole there is where your drive shaft goes through. So you guys can see up in there. Really not much to see. The splines, you can see the splines that engage the drive shaft. And then this hole here, you can kind of tell that, you know, it gets that big sort of rubber bushing that seals against the casing right there. This is for your shift shaft. So I'm going to take a rag and some brake parts cleaner or something and just kind of clean up these mating surfaces here. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to take this off. This just pops off. It's got a rubber on the bottom of it just like it does on top. We'll clean that up a little bit before we put it all back together. Take that bushing off. That looks a little bit lopsided. It looks like it was doing a good job. The base of it looks decent, but the top of it looks like it was maybe not sitting on there as good as it could have been. Go ahead and use a little baby screwdriver. You can't see, but I'm getting that O-ring off the drive shaft. That might be that thin O-ring. That's pretty small diameter. Clean this drive shaft up. Okay, and there we can see the condition of the old impeller. And it does look like that's the fat O-ring on the bottom down here. Key's still where it belongs. The key is on the key is not symmetrical. It's got a flat side and a tapered side. So the flat side, you know, the key was on there like this. The flat side on this, the tapered side this way. Kind of crunchy. I don't know, it feels like grit and stuff in there. So yeah, that's definitely the fat O-ring was down there on the key. You'll notice there's a dip, an indentation in the plate right here on this side. I think the new plate is flat, but that's dipped down right there. Yeah, that new plate is flat. Look the same. Before I go busting a good seal on there, that plate's worn, but I want to make sure that this is the same part before I go breaking a seal. Can't be unbroke. Not exactly the same. There we go. Okay, so the holes only line up one way. It's really close the other way though. You could probably force it if you had to, but if you got to force it, you're doing it wrong. So, kind of interesting that this plate doesn't have that dip in it that one does. Okay, we're good. Okay, so we got our main plastic housing. We got this top portion to it, and between the two, this rubber sort of bushing looking thing goes down in here like that. Then that goes on like that, and then there are two screws in the bag of parts. These two small screws here, use those to fasten it down. Okay, so I got this housing, put that new rubber bushing looking thing. It's got a skinny side with like a bevel, and then it's got a flat bottom. So you want the flat down, and that little bevel, you kind of want it sticking up. I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna put a little grease on that though, because this is where the water pipe comes in. That brass pipe comes down from the, from the top of the motor, goes into this, and then that brass pipe is supposed to more or less seat against that rubber. So I'm gonna put some grease in there. Yeah, I doubt you can see down in there, but it looks good. That rubber's a little compressed, but it doesn't look deformed. So I think it'll be all right. Okay, so then this gets an O-ring. Let's see, it's this O-ring, the larger diameter O-ring down in here. This might be where we use a little RTV to hold that O-ring together. Now there's a weep hole in there. Hope you guys can see it. Right there is a little hole. You don't want to get anything in there. There's a small channel. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm just going to put a little dab of this RTV in just a couple of spots around here, but I'm going to stay away from that little channel. Set my O-ring in there and just leave it alone. Hope it sets up here for a few minutes. We're going to do the same thing around the outside of this thing. All I'm doing with this RTV is just, I'm using it as an adhesive to try to hold the O-ring in place. That's all I want to do with that. Let's see, where's our impeller? So you can see the old impeller, the direction of the fins, this is critical. It's critical. So when we put the new impeller in, we want to rotate it counterclockwise, and you'll also notice on your impeller, it's got a groove for the key to go in. So you want to make sure that that groove ends up being down, because if you don't put the groove down, then you'll never get it over the key. So just pay attention to your impeller, which direction it is when you put it in. I'll tell you what, we'll just we'll set that sucker in here rather than fighting it in the rubber. I'm gonna grease that up though. I got my grease gun with some, it's like a marine and off-road cheap blue grease. Doesn't have to be high dollar Evinrude, whatever. So you got that one fin wonky. A lot of guys will tell you, oh, just put them in however, and when the thing starts up, it'll spin, it'll go its own direction. Actually, I got two of them going the wrong way. I have heard from guys that say that no, they've pulled them apart and some of those fins are still turned backwards. So go ahead and do yourself a favor, start off on the right foot, get your orientation as best you can. Grease on the larger, the thicker diameter O-ring is going to go on next. We're going to slide it all the way down. And it is going to hold the key on And again, this key has got a flat side on one side. It's like a, flat on this side. It's tapered all the way down on this side. We're going to put that right there, and we're going to let this O-ring hold that key on there for us. Okay, so we got our hole lined up here for our gasket. Alright, this turned into a real mess. It may be that this piece is riding up against the drive shaft here, is not allowing me to cant the housing enough to get the key started in. So I'm going to take these two screws out, see if I can remove that top snout and see if that'll allow me to wiggle this bottom housing a little better. Okay, the key is up inside the impeller. The metal housing looks like it's tucked up inside the plastic housing very well, so that's not out of whack. My impeller looks like it's seated very well. The O-ring is no longer holding the key. It looks like it's coming down just right. So let's go ahead and I'm going to stick a couple of brand new bolts in, just to make sure my orientation of everything is correct before I push everything down tight. Okay, we got them all started. I can still see daylight down there. Everything looks good. Good and snug, not overly tight, don't break the plastic. Okay, let's put this back on. I don't think taking that off really mounted to anything. I don't think it really helped anything. What am I doing? Again, I got grease all over everything. I guess while I got grease all over everything, I'll put this O-ring back on. Go ahead and put more grease up there on them splines. I'm going to put a little grease on the end of that shift shaft. And I'm set. Okay, so the old bushing looked like it was deeper on one side than the other. It's got a lip on either side. This one looks symmetrical. So we'll go ahead and stick that on the shifter shaft while we're thinking about it. And I'm going to go ahead and grease that up. Might help it seal a little bit. chunk of rubber, I don't know what you want to call it. That goes on with the pointy end up, and that was also deformed on the last one. So I'm just gonna rub some grease around on it also. Okay, what else we got? We got any other parts? Set that back on there. We're gonna get ready to put this sucker back in. Huh. Okay, so this plate interferes with this a little bit, but you can see there's an indentation, or I can see there's an indentation in this rubber already. So the last one interfered with that. And that might actually help us to hold this sort of manifold or apparatus, whatever the heck you want to call this thing, in place for reinstallation. You want it to sit in there good and snug so it doesn't try to fall out when we're putting the thing back up in there. This O-ring, this rubber up here is distorted. That's probably going to be a problem. That probably won't seat correctly ever again. Let's try this again. One more time. Man, as much as I kind of don't want to put a bolt in there and pull it together, I kind of want to put a bolt in there and pull it together. I think my battery just died on the camera. I'll just change it out. Hopefully you can see what's going on still. I don't know if you missed anything, but I am using these bolts to pull that lower unit up. It's got to be those new bushings just being compressed. I don't know what else it would be. It could be that exhaust. You know, the rubber on that exhaust kind of in the way, but I don't think anything's in a bind other than some rubber. You know, I'm thinking like the thickness of that rubber seal on that shift shaft, that could be holding it back. could be probably this darn exhaust boot thing. Looks like it's getting, kind of looks like it's getting squished a little bit, but I greased it up real good where it should seat as I'm applying pressure, I think. I mean, it's, when I'm tightening these bolts up, it's pulling the whole unit in pretty uniformly, so I feel pretty good about what's going on here, really. And I'm just pulling it up, like I say, uniform. Now this trim tab, I guess you should, I guess it go, you know, I should have said it earlier. Mark the position of that before you take it off so you know where to put it back to. This thing used to have some sort of, I forget what you call it, like a dolphin tail on it. And when that was on, it had holes drilled in it. So all I got to do is line up the drilled holes and I know I'm right back where I started. Okay, that's that. Now let's see if we can get the get that rod hooked up. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you kind of look over my shoulder, but it's so tight in there you're not going to be able to see anything. But you'll get to witness my struggle, I guess, if nothing else. See this? There's a bushing. See that brown thing? That bushing slid out of that aluminum housing, so I'm going to have to work that bushing back in there. Okay, the hole is partially covered by these washers, and these washers I think are made so that they hold spring tension against this assembly. There it is. Hey, 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 all right. Man, that was way easier than I thought it was going to be. Okay, can you guys see that back in there? Again, here's our hairpin that we were fighting. And then way back behind these two hoses, see that little dab of blue grease? Yeah, can you see that? Dab of blue grease back in there, that's what the grease that pushed out of the hole in the pin when the pin went in the shifter. It's just so hard to see back in there, guys. You kind of have to take my word for it. Again, check Brandon's garage. He does a pretty good video on all this. You know me, I do what I can, but I'm no boat mechanic. So check out Brandon's garage, and that'll be a lot of help for you too. I think I'm going to go ahead and engage the shifter. I can't believe my eyes. I just can't believe my eyes that that is actually engaged. So I'm gonna work the shifter. working? It sure is. Okay, well that went a whole lot easier than I thought it was going to up there on top. So that's it. I'll put the hood on it and I'm done. I hope I helped you with this one, guys. If I did, click that thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos of me working on this boat or doing all kinds of stuff out here in the garage, click the subscribe button. Till the next time, keep on tinkering.